All right, you just graduated from college. Wouldn't you like to take that degree to the next level? Dr. Frank Barrios is the Dean of Academic Affairs at Ponce Health Sciences University. And Ponce St. Louis is going to offer something I'm not familiar with, and is that a PSY?
PsyD.
PsyD, is that what they call it?
Yes.
So a
Doctor of Psychology.
Doctor of Psychology. Interesting. Is there a need for that in our area?
Yes, definitely. There is, you might say it's a supply and demand issue. There is not as many practitioners being trained as there would be sufficient to meet the need. But also, part of the issue is that psychological providers are not evenly distributed throughout the country. If you were to look at a map, you would see that the concentration of training programs and licensed psychologists is almost like a donut. They're concentrated in the Northeast,
Really?
the West Coast, the Sun Belt, and there's a huge hole in the middle of the country where there is a relative lack of trained providers.
Interesting. I wonder why that is.
I think it's because psychologists prefer living in areas where there are large population centers with the amenities. Many of them don't like living in rural areas, which is where the need is particularly the greatest.
And so tell us about this program then that you've started at Ponce.
Well, PsyD, or Doctor of Psychology, is a program which is designed to train individuals who are primarily interested in providing psychological services. Clinical psychology for many years was primarily staffed by individuals like myself with a PhD, but a PhD is a research degree. And until about 1970, all psychologists were trained with a PhD, but then it became apparent that most of them weren't doing any research once they got out of school, and so it became much more sensible to devise a degree that would not only focus on training them on providing them the clinical skills they need, but would also make it more comparable to other health professions that have their own professional degrees like MD, DDS, and so forth.
Sure, and that way when you get out of college, you're ready to start actually helping people and not just have that research background, which is obviously very important.
Yes.
But as far as the one-on-one, you need those skills.
The idea is that PsyDs should be informed consumers of psychological research. They should be knowledgeable, and they should be able to use psychological research on the basis of making their clinical decisions when possible. But we're not expecting them to be contributing to the research literature as you would a PhD.
Well, and also you have experience because you probably have, as part of the curriculum, you're going to be working with people, and and that's something that you may not get as much of in it.
Well, you would in a clinical PhD program. It's just the emphasis would be more on the research side, especially some of the larger established institutions. Whereas we're going to be focusing more on providing the practitioner skills.
Are there ways that this program is unique to other forms of degrees?
Well, it's unique to the St. Louis area because we will be the first and only PsyD training program that's ever been in St. Louis, and only the second one in Missouri. The other thing I think that makes the Ponce program unique is that Ponce started out and has been for 40 years an institution in Puerto Rico. So the commitment and the history of the institution is to trying to provide practitioners with cultural competence, which means looking at individuals in the context of their culture, whether it be Hispanic, African American, rural whites, whatever, and not just as individuals, but as members of a cultural group, and that becomes important in assessing and treatment of their problem.
Sure. You know, this is one of those programs that your parents like to talk to you about. They say, listen, there's a huge need. It's in our area, and there's a school that's designed to help make you successful right out of the gate once you graduate from the program. Everything kind of comes together on
exactly,
like that.
yes.
And thank you, Doctor. Appreciate you being here today very much. For more information about Ponce Health Services University, visit stlouis.psm.edu, or you can call them at 314-499-6540.